Ladies and gentlemen, the 2023 Austrian Grand Prix weekend is upon us, and we are here to give our predictions for what's going to happen this sprint weekend around Austria. If you're new here, we make these same predictions every single race weekend, but we do add a new prediction for sprint weekends because more racing action equals more predictions. We have our biggest positive surprise, our biggest disappointment, our qualifying top three. For the sprint weekends, we do our sprint winner, our race, Grand Prix, podium, as well as you can tell on this channel, we make our Haas predictions for the race weekend. We learned last time out in Canada that being a Haas fan is a true test of loyalty, but you know what? I'm here every single weekend, but you know what? Let's go ahead. Let's jump on into it. And if you want to get involved on the predictions, I also give my chat these same questions and allow them to make some predictions. So you can catch us here on the YouTube channel live stream every Wednesday before race weekend to make your predictions, as well as in our Discord server linked down below. We have an F1 weekend predictions channel on the Discord that you'll be able to drop your predictions for the race weekend there, and they'll be included in the video. But for now, let's go ahead. Let's jump on into it. Our first prediction. First up on the list, we have our biggest positive surprise. It can be a team, it can be a driver, it can be literally anything that you think is going to be positive. For me, I have gone for, I'm going out on a limb here, Logan Sargent is my prediction for biggest positive surprise. The last time out, we saw that Williams in Canada put that thing where it realistically shouldn't be. And so this weekend, with the new upgrades on the car around a circuit that I think Williams could do pretty well at, considering, I mean, it's 3 long straights in a row with some fast, high-speed corners. The Williams is pretty slippy. It's got some tight sections. It's got some high-speed corners. I think the Williams could be sneaky good here. And so Logan Sargent getting the upgrades this weekend is my pick for the biggest positive surprise. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to be putting it on the podium or anything like that. But considering Logan has had a bit of a run here where he's seemed to really struggle, I think this weekend could be Logan's chance to get those upgrades and put it up there in the order and have probably one of his better results of the year so far. So Logan Sargent, you're my prediction for biggest positive surprise. And as for my chat, we have a couple of different entries. We have Checo Perez. I feel like that's almost, the reasoning that we want that is almost self-explanatory at this point. The dude has had a rough time of it so far this year. After a pretty strong start, it really seems like he is struggling to get to grips with the car and put in those consistent outings. And so we have some hopium happening in the Discord. Checo, you are their prediction for biggest positive surprise. And we also have a prediction for Aston Martin, and even a tease, a sprinkling of a little tease of a Fernando Alonso win, ? Who says it's going to happen? It wasn't their official prediction, but who knows? Crazier things have happened in Austria. We roll on into the other side of that coin. Our second prediction, our biggest disappointment. Now, this pains me more than you could possibly imagine. The entire discourse online around this team this weekend seems to point towards the positive, right? It seems like they always do well here relative to where they normally end up. It seems like this is the kind of track where they excel at. It seems like this weekend could be the weekend that Haas F1 make a jump and put in a good result. You know what? The vibes are off on this 100%. Yes, Haas have to perform very well in Austria. Last season went very well for them, but the vibes in my heart are just off, and so it pains me. It pains me more than you could possibly imagine. But Haas F1 team are my pick for biggest disappointment around Austria. I think it's just all the discourse around how they do so well in Austria. It's just the vibes are just off, and it just feels like something is inevitably going to go wrong. So even though it might be a little bit of a reverse jinx happening here in my heart, of my hopes and dreams, Haas F1 team, you are my prediction for biggest disappointment. I hate it. I hate it so much. we'll move on. My chat has made their predictions as well. We have a counterpoint to one of our biggest positive surprises, an Aston Martin pick, saying that their upgrades will fail to deliver quite to the level that they're expecting, and they won't make the gains that they were really hoping. And then we also have a pick for Ferrari. This also feels like a pretty safe pick sometimes. Ferrari had to go way too well in Canada, and they think they're due for another stinker. That seems like that's always how it goes for them. And so we have an Aston Martin and a Ferrari pick for biggest disappointments as well. So there you go. 3 teams that just, the vibes just seem off apparently. So it is what it is. New for sprint race weekends, it is qualifying for the Grand Prix on a Friday. And so we move now to our qualifying predictions for the Grand Prix, not the sprint shootout. We are only making our qualifying for the Grand Prix predictions. And for me, here are my top 3. It's going to look familiar. It's going to look familiar. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do a top down. Because surprise, surprise, or no surprise, surprise, Max Verstappen's taking pole position. I mean, I've been saying it the last 2 times out in these videos that I'm going to continue to put him up there until someone can actually prove me wrong. I saw a statistic. Now we'll get to that. We'll get that in a minute. I saw a crazy statistic. We'll go over that when I go through my podium predictions. But Max Verstappen taking pole in my predictions seems like an easy point to take. And you know what? Sometimes you need all the points you can get. And until someone proves to me that they can do it, Max Verstappen's taking pole position. P2 in qualifying. He did it on a technicality in Canada. Fernando Alonso with the Aston Martin upgrades puts it P2 in qualifying for the Grand Prix. I think it might be even a little bit closer. This is one of those circuits where the time gaps between positions in qualifying is going to be a lot shorter. It's going to be a lot less. Each mistake is going to be amplified because it is the shortest circuit on the calendar, and so it's going to be a tight one, I think, especially Alonso battling with my P3 prediction, Lewis Hamilton. It just feels like he is driving unbelievably right now with that, that secondary side pod spec for the W14. And so there is my top 3 for qualifying: Max Verstappen pole, followed by Fernando Alonso, followed by Lewis Hamilton. And as for my chat, they have a bit of a split decision. Obviously, they picked Verstappen. That's a unanimous decision across the board. And then we have a bit of a differing opinions. From there, we have a Checo Perez, Charles Leclerc side, P2 and P3 respectively, and an Alonso Ocon prediction as well. Some Ocon believers and some Charles Leclerc Ferrari believers as well. But there you go. Those are my predictions and our predictions for the qualifying results for the Austrian Grand Prix. Special for the sprint race weekends, we make our predictions for the sprint winner. It'll be 24 laps around the Red Bull Ring after the sprint shootout on Saturday morning, and we'll keep this one nice and short. I'll combine them both, my sprint winner and my chat and Discord's sprint winner, Max Verstappen. It really feels like this is just his spot to lose. Until he doesn't. I mean, we might see some crazy things in the sprint. I don't think Max will be as motivated in the sprint as maybe the full Grand Prix. But that said, he'll still be plenty motivated enough to start on pole, win the sprint race, and move on to start at the front for the Grand Prix as well. So Max Verstappen, our winner for this sprint race this weekend. We move on now to our race podium predictions, and here is where I think things get a little interesting. I've tried to be a little bold. You can only go so far and make things so exciting predicting Max Verstappen to win everything every weekend. And so I dug deep. I dug deep this week, and I really am putting myself out there. We'll start top down again because it feels like that's just the easier thing to do here. P1, the winner of the Austrian Grand Prix, Max Verstappen. The stat I was alluding to earlier was that since he took the lead in Miami in Miami is round 5, he has led every single lap of Grand Prix racing since he took the lead in Miami. That is an absurd stat, and I shan't knock him from the top spot until someone can at least lead another lap. That includes when he pits, by the way. He always builds enough of a gap where he leads and pits and comes out in the lead. It's an amazing stat. Moving on, P2, the second step of my podium, Fernando Alonso. The guy has been on an absolute tear recently, and it's one of those things where The dude is on fire, and the Aston Martin upgrades, even if they don't perform quite up to where we expect them to, or where they expect them to even, he's still shown plenty of pace around very fast, similar circuits a la Canada last time out. I think he's doing very well right now, and some other teams just need to make some magic happen for anything to come otherwise. So Fernando Alonso, P2, the eternal P2 and the eternal podium this year, it would seem. My prediction for the second step. And the third step, this is where we get crazy, all right? Hear me out. Hear me out. Charles Leclerc. Can you believe that Ferrari has not stood on the podium in 2023? They performed beautifully in Austria last season. It was Ferrari's last win, by the way. And so I think they could be due and a little extra motivated with how they performed last season to put in a good weekend. I think Charles Leclerc makes up some ground and has an absolute Charles Leclerc masterclass against all odds, defying 17 Ferrari strategy calls to put himself on the podium in Austria. We got to get a little crazy. And I think Charles Leclerc is just the man to get a little crazy enough to put it on the podium in Austria. And then moving on to the Discord, we have another split decision. We'll start with probably the more likely of the two. If I had to guess, we have a Max Verstappen win, a Sergio Perez P2, and they join me in a Charles Leclerc P3. Fascinating stuff. Find it very interesting to see Perez back on the podium. The dude has been the opposite of on fire recently. And then on the other side, we have I'll start P3, George Russell, podium in Austria. George has been kind of down, obviously. In Canada, he hits the wall very hard and ends up having to retire the car. Back on the podium, P2. And this is where they go. All right, hear me out. Max Verstappen. Someone legitimately is predicting a Max Verstappen P2 for the Grand Prix. And you know who's going to win it? Fernando Alonso. They're getting bold, they're getting beautiful, and if it happens, I think we'll all celebrate like it was a world championship. But there is their predictions for the race, the Austrian Grand Prix this weekend. Let's pray one of them happens over the other, because it would be absolutely incredible to see. Finally, our Haas predictions for the race weekend. You already got a little bit of a teaser for my biggest disappointment prediction, but it wouldn't be me if I didn't get very detailed and I didn't give it my all to get it absolutely on the nose. I think it's going to be a terrible weekend for Haas. The vibes are off. So for my prediction, one car into Q2, one car in the top 15 for the sprint race, and then both cars outside the top 15 for the Grand Prix. I cry every time. I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and the vibes in the universe for me just feel impeccably off. They feel so incredibly off that I had to make this prediction, because at this point, if they do better than this and they have a great, fantastic weekend, it's a win. It's a win-win. It's a win-lose. I win because Haas has a good weekend, but I lose in prediction points. But at this point, the vibes just feel so off that I just can't do it, and it pains me in my soul to predict it. But I think Haas is going to have a terrible weekend. It's just, I don't know why. If this turns into a reverse jinx, I am for it. Please, Haas, prove me wrong. And then for my chat, they actually got really detailed with their prediction. They predicted a slow start to the weekend with an issue in practice, but they bounce back in quali and get a double Q2 appearance. So 2 cars into Q2. And then in the race, they're predicting a strong battle for points with 1 car, but a DNF in the first 5 laps for the second one. Very detailed. And then another just dropped in, 1 car in the points, which I would love absolutely every single day of the week. So obviously my Discord is a lot more, it's feeling it a lot more for Haas this weekend, opposite me. We got to balance ourselves out somehow. That wraps it up, guys. My predictions for the Austrian Grand Prix this weekend. It's always a fun one around the Red Bull Ring. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. What do you think is going to happen? Anything exciting going to happen? Is the weather going to play a factor? That has kind of been a hot topic as the week has gone on. And if you enjoy F1 content either in real life or on the gaming side, you have found the right place. We've been playing a lot of F1 23. We're going to be playing a lot of F1 Manager 23 when it comes out here in a month or so. But for now, go ahead, hit subscribe, ding dong that bell, turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload I put up. We're on our march towards 100 subscribers. I can't believe I'm saying that as we speak. But for now, I hope we all have a great Austrian Grand Prix race weekend. Yeah, that'll do it for me here, guys. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.